Welcome to the Verse by Verse Bible Study. This week we're going in depth with Ezekiel chapter 6 and 7. They highlight the coming judgment of Jerusalem. Join us as Jerry puts his unique spin on this valuable lesson.
Okay, let's get started.
I went and looked again this week, and I'll just try to clarify this a little bit. Sidebar 1, the sequel. 598 BC is Jehoiachin's exile. Okay, and along with them, Ezekiel went with that batch into Babylon. 593 BC, 5 years after they get there, he has the heavens open vision, which Jerry did for us. Okay, 592, 14 months later, abomination of the temple, and that's in chapters 8, 1 through 18, which I referenced last week. 586 and 587 BC, the first temple is destroyed. So when he was looking at this, there was a temple existing. Okay, we don't know whether it was, he was looking at the actual first temple. We know it wasn't the second temple because it doesn't match the description. We don't think that this will be allowed in the millennia, but we don't know. So, but anyway, it did exist at this thing. What I picked up was referencing the vision of a new temple, chapter 40. Okay, there will not be a temple when that happens. Okay, so, and you see the disparity in the number of years between the visions. There's 20 years. All these visions take place over years or so. So, with that, we'll get to chapter 40. And then, of course, in 570, Ezekiel dies. So, does that clear it up a little bit? Does it help? Okay.
It helped. It took me about a week of my 3-week preparation for this class to figure where all this fit into this. Today we're looking at 2 chapters, chapter 6 and chapter 7. Chapter 6 is going to talk about the cause of the judgment that's coming. Okay, Ezekiel's in Babylon, but not all of the Jews have been taken to Babylon yet, and there's a lot of Jews in Babylon. And he's going to be talking to both those groups during these 2 chapters. So the first one is going to be, and it's also, I didn't catch this at first either. The chapter 6 is the first spoken sermon that Ezekiel gives to the nation, and chapter 7 is the second spoken deal. All these other things are telling him what he's going to do and what he's going to say and what's going to go on. Now he's actually going to be talking to him. So the first one is the cause of the coming judgment, which is idolatry. Remember, they are being punished for their idolatry. The timing, the 70 years is not is because for 70 different times they didn't honor the 7-year let the fields rest. Okay, so that was 490 years. They didn't do that. That was just, he goes, 70, that's a good number, for them to be, because he is trying to get rid of their idolatry. Okay, that's the purpose of the capture and the captivity. Okay. And we'll talk about that some more too. So the first one is the judgment of the land. He's going to explain that the idolatry has messed up the land that he's given them. And the second one is the devastation of the land. He's going to describe what's going to happen to them. And it's the land and the people, what's going to happen. Somebody read chapter 6, verses 1 through 7.
The word of the Lord came to me, Son of man, set your face against the mountains of Israel. Prophesy against them and say, you mountains of Israel, hear the word of the sovereign Lord. This is what the sovereign Lord says to the mountains and hills, to the ravines and valleys. I am about to bring a sword against you, and I will destroy your high places. Your altars will be demolished, and your incense altars will be smashed. And I will slay your people in front of your idols. I will lay the dead bodies of the Israelites in front of their idols, and I will scatter your bones around your altars. Wherever you live, the towns will be laid waste, and the high places demolished, so that your altars will be laid waste and devastated, and your idols smashed and ruined, your incense altars broken down, and what you have made wiped out. Your people will fall slain among you, and you will know that I am the Lord. Well,
so the land, Israel, belonged to God, but he was allowed the Jewish people to use it as long as they didn't defile it with their sins, which of course we find out they did. The Jewish idols the reason they're being punished are on the tops of the hills. Okay, this and the reason is because they really thought that their God was the highest thing in the land, so they went to the high hills. God saw it as the lowest defiling thing. He considered it dung. I mean, he just, yeah. Okay. So the first thing he says is, set your face towards the mountains. He's going to have him talk to the mountains rather than the people, because the people aren't listening. Go talk to the mountains. They'll listen to you. They'll sit there and listen to you. That's what he's trying to say here. He says, but the way they're saying this, and if you read through the details of the language on that, is set your face. Be serious. This is important stuff. Okay, you've got to be there, and it's set your face against the mountains, not just the people. And then he goes to the mountains. He says, to the mountains, listen, in verse 2 and 3, listen. The mountains were called upon to listen to God, to shame the inhabitants that wouldn't be listening. Okay, so God's trying to shake them. And then he says, God's word will be heard. Okay, I want you to preach it. They're not listening. Go tell the mountains. They'll listen. They ain't going to run around. They're going to listen to you. I don't know. Side note, Billy Graham talked to trees for years and years before he ever talked to people. If you read the story, he talked to trees. He'd go out in the forest because he would talk to trees. That's where he got his confidence to talk to people. Yeah. Then Paul said here about the hills, ravines. Basically, what he's saying here, it's not just the hills where these altars are, it's the whole land. It's down in the deepest part of the valleys and everything else. So the whole land has been defiled by your worship of the idols, not just the tops of the hills, mountains. In verse 3, he talks about, behold, I myself am going to bring a sword. God's going to cause the total destruction of the idols, high places, and idolaters. Okay? He's not going to let anything go. He'll use the Babylonians to do it. That's his method. I got to thinking about all this. God, Satan's in control of the world right now. God is in control of the circumstances that make his plan work. There are people, this is a Keelonism, I believe, that are being used of God, don't even know it. They don't even know it. They're not aware. God doesn't have to make you aware of some things. He can use whoever he wants to, however he wants to get whatever he wants to done, because plan A works.
Evil or good.
Huh?
That's right. Evil or good.
Evil or good, yeah. He doesn't, and people don't even know they're doing evil, or they don't even know they're doing good. But he's coming in there and he says, I'm going to cause a total destruction of all this. Okay? So, along with that same deal, he says, your altars will become desolate. They're going to be destroyed. Okay? And he says, your altars. He goes, it's not my altars. My altar is in Jerusalem. You guys are the ones going up to your altars, not mine. I wouldn't call those my altars. That'd be terrible. Because he said the only one was in Jerusalem at the time. Okay. And then he talks about what God is doing for this deal is he's trying. They don't have the Bible yet. Okay. They don't have Bible study. They don't have life groups. Can you imagine? They don't have all this. So what happened is I got to train my people. How am I going to do that? We can't use PowerPoint, right? So he's going to train them, and it takes a while to train them. And one of the things he's trying to train them is he is the true God. It's me. I'm the true God. I've got to train them so they understand that, so they, as my people, they can do what I told them to do, which is go out and tell everybody, including the Gentiles, which they don't want to do that. I can do anything but the Gentiles, okay? Because if they told the Gentiles will be just like they are, which is faithful people, and they don't want that. They want them to be different. Where's people? That's how they were acting. Yep. And then, so God is a jealous God, and he doesn't tolerate any rivals. And so the punishment, the people have to learn. And so he goes, how am I going to, 70 years sounds like a good learning period. So that's why I put them in captivity for 70 years. They actually, according to all the studies I've done, when they came out of captivity and finally got back to Jerusalem, they didn't ever idol worship again. They learned their lesson. He had to teach them, and that's the way he taught them, was through this captivity period. I mean, all these, we had Daniel and Isaiah and Ezekiel all preaching during this time frame over and over and over and over the same word, same thing. It's going to be destroyed. It's going to be this. It takes a while. And if you don't have, just think of the privilege we have to have a Bible to study. They did not have that. They didn't have pencil and paper to write down. They had just memorized and listen to what the people were saying. How much harder is that? We have it so easy. It just, we really do. And then he says, I shall make you slain, fall in front of the idols. Well, okay. You think these things are so great and everything. It says, I'm going to throw you on the ground in front of the idols to show you that the idols were nothing but, they call them dunghill deities. The idols could not protect them. They needed to see that. And he says, I'm going to scatter your bones around the idols, around the altars, rather. And he does this because one of the comments by one of the historians or something said that the Babylonians opened the graves of important people and threw their bones on all sides of it. Okay, so they're trying to show who they're showing. It's going to be total destruction. We'll talk about that in just a minute. It says your idols are going to be broken. And one of the commentators said, because the land has been defiled by idols, idols themselves would now be defiled by the corpses of the worshipers in a retribution kind of way. This would be the height of desecration, replacing the fragrance of incense with the odor of putrefaction, the putrefying bodies. It's implied that the survivors, those that follow God, those that are going to not be destroyed, and the ones that don't worship the idols, okay, those are going to be the remnant. So it says in there, they will know that I'm Lord. Okay. Later on, he keeps talking about they will know. It's the Jews in the world. This isn't just for the Christians. The people of the world need to see this. If they don't know that, they won't read it. It isn't a Christian book. He wants the world to know what's going on. Then they can accept or not accept, right? He wants them to know what's going on. So I wrote it down for them. And he gave it to these, prophets that are supposed to do this, that are going to be killed and all kinds of stuff. Okay, somebody read chapter 6, 8 through 10.
But I will spare some. You did say 8 through 10. Right?
Yeah, I did say that.
But I will spare some, for some of you will escape the sword when you are scattered among the lands and nations. Then in the nations where they have been carried captive, those who escape will remember me, how I have been grieved by the adulterous hearts, which have turned away from me, and by their eyes, which have lusted after their idols. I will loathe themselves for the evil they have done and for all their detestable practices. And they will know that I'm the Lord. I did not threaten in vain to bring this calamity on them.
So he's going to leave a remnant. Okay. That just means a small group of a bigger group. Okay. The remnant. And so, these are the people that were to be used throughout the generations. Today, there's a remnant. I'm not sure. I don't know how that works, but I'm not sure they may even know they're a remnant. They may not know they're Jewish. The 144,000 are going to come from all the tribes, and all the tribes are all over the world. We don't know where they are. God does. His DNA, he wrote it in their heart, wrote it in their DNA. Someplace out there is all these people that are the remnant, and some of them may know it, some of them may not, but they will eventually know it. Okay. So God saved those who were repentant. The remnant is the ones that returned to the land, rebuilt the temple, restored the worship of the Lord, and eventually made it possible for the coming of the Messiah. They did important things back then. They're going to do important things in the future too. Okay. So, then he starts talking about, in verse 9, then those who escape will remember me among the nations to which they will be carried. So as these people go, they're seeing all this stuff. As they go, they're going to remember what's going on. Okay. That's how the process through this thing. They're going to be distributed all over the world. Later on, they get even more distribution, through the diaspora for the Jews. But by his grace, they're going to remember him. Okay. So then he says, their adulterous hearts turned away from me. What? They had departed from God, they had departed from his word, which should have been their rule. His word, this should have been their rule, was not. And his work, the things that he had done, that they should have been made their business. They should have been telling people what's going on. Using a human analogy, you would say that God expressed the depth of the grief he felt over Israel's idolatry by likening himself to a husband with a constantly unfaithful wife. That's what he's going through. That's the grief that God has throughout the time with the Jews. They're constantly, they go through periods. You'll see they go through periods where a good king will rebuild all will take down all the idol altars. A bad king will come in and rebuild them. A good king will come in, tear them down. Bad king will come over and over and over. It's like a disobedient child, which we all are. You can imagine how much you love a child that's not following you, and how you try to bring them back in, and they okay. Then they do it again. It's his patience is beyond my comprehension. And it says their eyes will be, which played the harlot after their idols. Their hearts followed their eyes in the choice of their gods. They needed to see a god. They needed to see they needed to see this little creature, little whatever it was. They need to see that to believe. Okay, so he's saying, that's your eyes, but because of that, their eyes followed their heart, and then they followed in adoration of their idols. Then the sin made them a spiritual whore, if you will, and then that was a breach of the marriage covenant with God. So that's what's going on here. That's what he's telling us. It says they will loathe themselves in their own sight for the evil they have committed. What he's saying is they will remember what grief this was to God and how he resented it. Nothing grieves a true repenting person so much as to think that his sin has been a grief to God.
So, Jerry?
So?
Most people didn't have the Holy Spirit then.
No, you don't get the Holy Spirit till after
right, till after Jesus.
Right.
So that's why they kept reverting back and forth, because they didn't have anything to root their belief in.
Well, they had God.
They had the law.
They had the law. Well, then that's what they had done. That's what God gave them. That's what he was training them on. But you're right. Later on, we have it so easy. Think about what we have versus what they had.
Right.
Same standard. You got to believe in Jesus to go to heaven. Back then, now, both times.
And back then, only
they just didn't know his name.
Boys memorized the first 5 books.
Yeah.
Only the men and boys.
Yeah.
Women didn't. And hey,
You cut them slack.
were in charge of the house.
Yeah.
So, it's one of those bad things about the household.
Well, there's a verse that's really interesting. I taught a class, marriage that regrets, from Kay Arthur one time. And we started with 17 couples, we ended up with 17 people. And part of the problem was you get into the Bible, and really what it says, is your co-heirs, co-equal, guys in charge of the finances and the spiritual leading. He doesn't have to be the one working, he's just in charge of it. But he has to be the one doing the spiritual leading, and the lady's in charge of the household. So if she says, do something, guys, she's in charge.
That honey-do list really means something.
A honey-do list is meaningful biblically. They didn't like that. That class just went away. They didn't like that.
Gary, you need to move on.
No. I step on a lot of toes with that, but I think it's true. It's one of the ways I've lived my life.
Maybe needs to go into more depth.
I was like, Wayne, what do you think? Yeah, smart man.
Yeah. So the idols which sometimes are guilty of being a whore. Examples of that was, remember we talked about Peor? Peor. Remember that was the big sex party they had when they came up through coming from the Red Sea up through there, and all the nations were afraid, and Barak was supposed to save them, go talk to them. They couldn't do it. Finally, they said, oh, we'll do it by getting them here and getting them, to where they'll do all kinds of horrible things. And God said, oh, that's great. They killed like 14 or 24,000 because they had done that. It was a horrific way, but they were trying to do it. And then the other one was sometimes they're guilty because of like Moloch. Remember that? That was the sacrifice of the babies. They kill them. We're so much more sophisticated now. We do it before they can scream.
Yeah.
They scream in utero.
Same difference.
Huh?
They scream in utero.
I know they do. But people, we haven't changed. Mankind is the same. Okay. All the way through. And then in verse 10 it says, then they will know that I'm Lord. You say all this, then they'll know that I'm Lord. Everybody will know that I'm Lord. They have to know that. Okay. So then somebody read 11 through 14.
This is what the sovereign Lord says. Strike your hands together and stamp your feet and cry out, alas, because of all the wicked and detestable practices of the people of Israel, for they will fall by the sword, famine, and plague. One who is far away will die of the plague, and one who is near will fall by the sword. Anyone who survives and is spared will die of famine. So will I pour out my wrath on them, and they will know that I am the Lord, when their people lie slain among their idols around their altars, on their very high hill, and on all the mountaintops, under every spreading tree and every leafy oak, places where they offered fragrant incense to all their idols. And I will stretch out my hand against them and make the land a desolate waste from the desert to Diblah, where they live. Then they will know that I am the Lord.
Okay. Clap your hands, right? To get attention. God is telling Ezekiel, make sure that those listening to the prophet, make sure that they listen. And he says, I want you to be earnest and firm in what you're saying. I want you to get the attention of them. The problem was the Jews knew that idolatry was wrong, but how big a deal is that? It's not like not going to one of the 12 or the 5 feasts. It's not like, killing. It's just a little thing. They're not understanding that a little thing is the same as a big thing to God. It's a thing. Sin is a sin. It doesn't matter what size it is. And that's why he's saying, Ezekiel, you gotta get firm with this. Now, you remember all the punishments. Ezekiel's going to live through this and die and all that kind of stuff too. It's not like protecting him. He's just telling them what's going to happen to them if they're not a part of the remnant. Okay. He had 2 laments. One is a national sin, of Israel, but he lamented all that. But then he lamented also over what we're going to see is the destruction of everything to the wicked people. And in verse 12, it says, he who is far off will die of the plague. Okay. Ezekiel must warn them over and over and over and over and over of the coming destruction. So when he says, he who is near will die, fall by the sword, he who remains is besieged will die of famine. So he's telling them, if you're not in Jerusalem, you're going to die of a sword. Okay. If you're in Jerusalem, you're going to die of famine or pestilence. The first COVID deal. So you know, they need to hear it over and over and over. But when we did Isaiah, they need to hear it over and over and over because they don't have the book with them. They've got the scrolls. Oh yeah, did all the priests and the high priests preach those all the time? Yeah, they could not. I think they didn't do that enough, and so the people didn't understand a lot of it.
Didn't they keep them all locked up? Regular people couldn't see the scrolls.
Well, they might mess with them. You don't want them to change a word. You don't want them to get them burned or anything. It's the scrolls. The scrolls are really interesting how they did those, because they did the letters, they counted the letters, they're trying to make it perfect, but we'll see in a minute that didn't exactly come out that way. Okay. It says, then they will know that I'm Lord. It gives them another recap of the destruction of the altars. People will see this and know that they would and did reject the idols after their severe judgment. I told you earlier about that. They did actually begin to realize we're not going to do idols. God's mad about that. We learned a lesson. But he's going to make the land more desolate than the wilderness of Diblah, which is really, if you look over here in the red, it's a city called Riblah. And the commentaries, they all kind of have different statements about that. They feel like that the translation of a R and a D was messed up a lot of different times. And they'd have to find these places and correct them in the Bible. And so, but really what he's trying to say is what's in the yellow. Somebody read Deuteronomy 8:15.
He led you through the vast and dreadful wilderness with that thirsty and waterless land with its venomous snakes and scorpions. He brought you water out of hard rock.
Okay. So if you look at the yellow part, that was the route they took. It was evidently a terrible, terrible route. I mean, it's along the Euphrates River, but how close they are is like 20, 30 miles from what it looks like. So they basically, he's saying, he was saying what the Jews say is from Dan to Beersheba. Okay. That was north to south. That's their way of saying it. It's hysterical at times, but not really. Hamas, from the river to the sea. What they don't realize, it's not the Jordan River, it's the Euphrates River to the sea, and they're agreeing that God is right. They're agreeing. There's from the river to the sea. Oh, yeah. They just don't know what they're doing.
More than just a little confused.
There's some more than a little confused. Yeah. So that's what's going on here. And it says, thus they will know that I'm Lord. Yahweh may be known by all men, Israelites and non-Israelites, because he is the one true God, the God of the world, the God of history, and the God that speaks and does not speak in vain. He's all those things, and he wants the world to know that. Jews, you're supposed to tell them. Oh, I'm busy today. I can't do that. So let's go on to chapter 7. This is the second sermon that he's given the people, and this is about the devastation of land. Somebody read 1 through 6.
The word of the Lord came to me, Son of man, this is what the sovereign Lord says to the land of Israel. The end has come upon the four corners of the land. The end is now upon you, and I will unleash my anger against you. I will judge you according to your conduct and repay you for all your detestable practices. I will not look on you with pity. I will not spare you. I will surely repay you for your conduct and for the detestable practices among you. Then you will know that I am the Lord. This is what the sovereign Lord says. Disaster. Unheard of disaster. See, it comes. The end has come. The end has come. It has roused itself against you. See, it comes.
The Lord of the Word came to me. Came to me saying, he's reminding him he's just a prophet. I'm just telling what God told me to tell you guys. I don't get the choice to make these words up. I've got to say what he tells me to say. And now he's quit talking to the mountains. He's talking to the people. Pay attention, guys. It turns out, evidently, that Ezekiel's now telling people still in Israel and still in Jerusalem and in Babylon that their judgment was coming. And evidently the first and second generation of people that entered the promised land through Canaan did all the killing, not as much as they were supposed to, but they did all they could do, or they thought they should do, obeyed God and his covenant. But we're now to the third generation, evidently, and the third generation on broke the wedding vows, provoked God, and they prostituted themselves to idols. Okay? That's what started all this stuff. This is the end. The end is coming. He's repeating it and repeating it because it's now. The end, which was foregoing judgments, have been working towards ruin, will now be complete. The Israelites are thinking, yeah, I know it's coming. But Jeremiah 29:11, somebody read that real quick and we'll continue on. I know it's coming, but.
For I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord, plans for welfare and not for calamity, to give you a future and a hope.
They're saying that at this time. I don't have the plan for you. They're going, hey, it's not a big deal. The Israelites were not really concerned. They were, they thought of the 185,000 that God killed outside of Jerusalem at one time. We're his people. They're going to protect us. He won't do that to us. Come on. And it turns out that someplace in my notes, most of the time God says destruction's coming, people repent, and then he doesn't destroy them. This time he says destructions are coming. Not a lot of them repent, and he's going to do it.
Yep.
You can't stop me. Nothing you say or do is going to stop me. This is going to happen so that the world and the remnant will know. Now the end is upon you, and I will judge you according to their ways. He's going to end their comfy life. What's their comfy life? Well, they're in Babylon. They've been there 5 years by the time he's doing all this, right? They've established themselves. They've already said, stay here, make families, have, they're captives, but they're not slaves. They're being used to do different things for the Babylonians. They don't live in Babylon, which is too pretty for them. Okay, they don't get to live there, but they're doing all this stuff, and they've gotten comfy there. Because he said, we're going to go back. Oh man, I don't want to go back. I like this place. This is a good place. I mean, they're not harassing me. They tell me what to do sometimes, but it's not bad. Yes.
They wanted to go back to Egypt.
Yeah. They want to go back. Yeah, that's a good point. They get comfortable. We get comfortable.
Yeah, change, not good.
God's saying, don't be comfortable. You will when you get to heaven. Wait till then. Between now and then, if you're comfortable, you're not doing my work.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then you'll know that I'm Lord. Not you, but all men will know that I'm Lord. And he says, unique disaster is coming, behold. Well, the destruction that's coming is beyond the nation of Israel. And at this point, when he's talking about Israel, he used to be, when you talk about Israel, you talked about a lot of the prophets was Jerusalem and Judah, that area. He's talking about all 10 of the tribes at this point. And it says it's coming, the end is come. He's going to quit talking, and he's going to do it. Someone read 7 through 10.
Doom has come upon you who dwell in the land. The time has come. The day is near. There is panic, not joy, on the mountains. I am about to pour out my wrath on you and spend my anger against you. I will judge you according to your conduct and repay you for all of your detestable practices. I will not look on you with pity. I will not spare you. I will repay you for your conduct and for the detestable practices among you. Then you will know that it is I, the Lord, who strikes you. See the day. See, it comes. Doom has burst forth. The rod has budded. Arrogance has blossomed.
Their shouts of joy have gone. Judge Israel according to your ways. It just made me think, and just while he was reading that, all these prophecies are close during Christ and at the end. At the end, how does he judge according to our ways? Us? No. We get to walk in. We're going to come in despite the great white throne. They get to go through all their good deeds and bad deeds. And according to their deal, he's going to judge them. It's all the same answer. Hell! Go right down there. That's what he's going to do. Well, I'm sorry. It's a lake of fire by that time. It's going to be the lake of fire. And that's what he's going to do here. He's got them so upset. That's not the right word. God doesn't get upset. He deals punishment when it's due. And it's due now. Just. Thank you. That was a good word. Justice. Yeah. He has to bring justice at this point. He's not going to change. He's not going to go off and say, "Oh, I'll not do it because you repented." It's too late. It's too late. The same thing, you can't accept Christ the day after you die. It's got to be before. The day after is too late. And they say time is short. Well, for some of us who are old, time is real short. But the rapture could happen. A lot of things could happen. You could get on 75 and not get off. I mean, really,
It's true.
It's true. And in our case, if we could stop at our stop sign in front of our house there, it's a four-way stop, and maybe 10% slow down.
Yeah.
2% stop. The rest of
They look both ways and keep.
Yeah, I know.
They don't always look both ways.
Yeah, they just go.
No.
It's just so you don't know when your time is, but the for us, the person we're talking to, their time be that way too. They don't know that. He says, "My eye will show no pity, nor will I spare anybody." God is going to give them judgment without mercy. Behold, the day is coming. What was going on was during that time there were a lot of false prophets who said God would rescue Judah and Jerusalem. He's done it. He's our God. These lies made it hard to believe. There were more of these false prophets than there was Ezekiel. It made it hard for the people to believe what Ezekiel was saying. Because there's a lot of them who said, it's going to happen. So then he comes up and says in the rod has budded, arrogance has blossomed in verse 10. What he's saying there is the buds is sin will blossom in some judgment. The rod is a reference to Babylon, whom God's going to use to punish Judah. This is a reference to Aaron's budded rod that he had, which was a miraculous blossoming of supernatural blossoming of the Aaron's rod as a demonstration of God's favor and his approval of Moses and Aaron. Okay, the judgment to come upon Jerusalem will also be supernatural, but will demonstrate God's anger and pride of his disobedient people. Somebody read 11 through 15.
Violence has risen up into a rod of wickedness. None of them shall remain. None of their multitude, none of them, nor shall there be wailing for them. The time has come, the day draws near. Let not the buyer rejoice, nor the seller mourn, for wrath is on their whole multitude. For the seller shall not return to what has been sold, though he may still be alive. For the vision concerns the whole multitude, and it shall not turn back. No one will strengthen himself who lives in iniquity. They had blown the trumpet and made everyone ready, but no one goes to battle. For my wrath is on all their multitude. The sword is outside, and the pestilence and famine within. Whoever is in the field will die by the sword, and whoever is within the city, famine and pestilence will devour him.
So none shall remain. It's going to be total destruction of Judah, Jerusalem, the temple. It says, none of your multitude, none of their wealth or anything among them. What it says, you can't expect all of your people here, no matter how big a number it is, to protect you. Okay? Your wealth isn't going to help you. What do you mean by that? Well, what the next in verses 12, 13 says, let not the buyer rejoice or the seller mourn. What he's really talking about there is, since all this is going to happen so soon, the buyer should not rejoice over the fact that he got a bargain by buying a parcel of land, nor the seller be sad over having to sell a land. Think of the year of Jubilee, every 7 sevens or every the 50th year in there, all land and all possessions to go back to the owner. So if you're going to buy a house or sell a house, whatever, you do it based on the fact that that's going to happen in that time frame, and that's how you adjust the price of your house. And he says, don't be excited about that. It's not going to get there. You're not going to have that as a backup in your decision making, because this destruction is going to happen like now. And most of the time, I've already said this, in the scriptures, when God announces judgment, it's implied that it's an invitation for repentance. Here, it's not. He's just saying it's going to be over. But it says no one is going to battle. Oh, there's little resistance to the coming Babylon conquest. Well, right? Perhaps people could comfort in the idea our soldiers will fight bravely to save our land from the Babylonians. Ezekiel told them they're not going to be brave, they're not going to fight. Your soldiers are going to fight. There's another one there. Okay. It says, and then the sword is outside, and the plague and the famine. Once again, he says, if you're outside the town, you're going to be killed by sword. If you're inside the town, you're going to die of pestilence or famine. Okay, so somebody read 16 through 19.
The fugitives who escape will flee to the mountains. Like doves of the valleys, they will all moan, each for their own sins. Every hand will go limp. Every leg will be wet with urine. They will put on sackcloth and be clothed with terror. Every face will be covered with shame, and every head will be shaved. They will throw their silver into the streets, and their gold will be treated as a thing unclean. Their silver and gold will not be able to deliver them in the day of the Lord's wrath. It will not satisfy their hunger or fill their stomachs, for it has caused them to stumble into sin.
Okay, so the survivors. Some of the Israelites are going to escape, the repentant ones. Okay. But they're going to continually mourn their sin. Once because they're going to see what's going on. There's going to be continual anguish and terror wherever they go. There's going to be this fall on them. Those that thought of themselves as lions of the mountain, we're God's people, right? They're now going to be as doves in a valley, so timid and they're ready to flee. And then I love this one: hands hang limp. They won't be able to fight or defend themselves. In my version, it's not quite as descriptive, but it says the knees will become like water. That's really saying a euphemism, rather, for the loss of battle control from fear. You just wet your pants. That's all there is to it. They're going to be that afraid. These are the soldiers that are going to protect them. These are the people. That's how afraid they're going to be. Gird themselves in sackcloth. They don't have any expectation they'll ever have better clothes again. Then it's shame on them will be on their face, baldness on their heads. These are all expressions of desperate sorrow. Then in verse 19, they shall fling their silver to the streets. Basically, they're saying our wealth has no benefit. They thought by using their wealth that they could buy their way out of things. They could bribe people. They could do all kinds of stuff because of their wealth. But they couldn't. In fact, it was a burden. If we're going to get out of town, I can't carry this much money with me. Get rid of it. Throw it in the streets. It's of no value to me. Matthew Henry wrote this. I thought it was good, and I thought you'd say this. They thought their wealth would bring would be their strong city. That with it they could bribe enemies, buy friends. That it would be a ransom for their lives. They could never be want of bread as long as they had money, and the money would answer all things. They had put their confidence in their wealth and riches to protect them, along with their idols, and not in God protecting them. So they just threw the silver away. Not going to do anything good. You're going to say something.
I was going to say, it feels like today.
Yeah.
Everybody just believes money will protect them from everything.
Somebody read 2022. Oh, yeah.
They took pride in their beautiful jewelry and used it to make their detestable idols. They made it into vile images. Therefore, I will make it a thing unclean for them. I will give their wealth as plunder to foreigners and as loot to the wicked of the earth, who will defile it. I will turn my face away from the people, and robbers will desecrate the place I treasure. They will enter it and will defile it.
So that they transform the beauty of his ornaments. That's can be looked at in two different ways. One, when they talk about the ornaments, they talk about the utility, the items they used in the temple. Okay, they were made beautifully, and supposedly they're remaking them. But they made that, but they defamed it, so God is going to destroy it. Okay, but it could also be the jewelry and we've talked about that before in Isaiah about how elaborate the Babylonians were, and these people are also because they're part of that all that system right there. And into the hands of foreigners as plunder, God had honored them with the temple, so that the other nations could look. What's that? They have a God that talks to them. How wonderful! I want to find out about that. Of course, the Jews said, no. You're just a Gentile. I don't want you around me. But that's beside the point. That God's point was they will ask about it. It's just like now he says, show your love. And people go, how are you doing that? Why are you doing that? Let me tell you. They didn't do that. So he says, okay. The robbers will enter into profane it. Okay, so I'm going to turn over and let the robbers just take what they want. They can steal all your stuff. It's no big deal. You're not using it the right way anyway. I get rid of it. So I'm going to read 22 to 27.
23 to 27.
23, I'm sorry. 23 to 27. Thank you.
Prepare change, for the land is full of bloodshed and the city is full of violence. I will bring the most wicked of the nations to take possession of their houses. I will put an end to the pride of the mighty, and the sanctuaries will be desecrated. When terror comes, they will seek peace in vain. Calamity upon calamity will come, and rumor upon rumor. They will go searching for a vision from the prophet. Priestly instruction in the law will cease, and the council of the elders will come to an end. The kingdom will mourn, the prince will be clothed with despair, and the hands of the people of the land will tremble. I will deal with them according to their conduct, and by their own standards I will judge it. Then they will know that I am the Lord.
Yeah, I think they said that like 7 times in these 2 verses. I'm going to say like 55 times throughout all of it. Ezekiel, make a chain. Well, they're going to drag the prisoners in, and it signifies really the siege of Jerusalem, and that slavery be carried off to captivity, and that there's going to be judgment of God. It says, I shall bring the worst of nations, Babylon. Wait. In the end time, Babylon's the worst of not just nations, but political, economic, religious systems. I'm going to take the worst of everything and have them be the ones that come get you. Nanny, poo-poo. That's what he's saying. And then when anguish comes, since they disappointed God's expectation for them, he would disappoint their expectation for him. He's going to protect us. No, I'm not. Okay, disaster will come upon disaster. Things are going to happen to them over and over and over. And it says, but the law will be lost from the priest and the council of elders. it says they did not desire a vision to reprove their sin or warn them of dangers. They wanted a promise of deliverance. So their priests talked to them the nice way. Talk about the love of Christ. Excuse me. Of
prosperity preaching.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's just with cell phones now. But back then they didn't have it. So that's what they did. It says they will mourn the prince and the prince will be clothed with horror. This is kind of cool. In the eyes of Ezekiel, the king was Jehoiakim. The prince was Zedekiah. Oh, wait. Though Zedekiah was the last king of Judah, the prophet didn't recognize his reign, but considered him only a prince. So forever and ever, he's a prince. He's not a king. And the hands of the people will tremble. None of the men whom of might will fight for them. They're not going to have the hands to do it. They'll be too scared. It says not only will there be religious chaos, but the political system will fall apart whenever the Jewish leaders depend on politics rather than on their prophetic word. They're gradually moved from compromise to confusion. Hamas, Israel.
Yeah, sounds familiar.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's the same thing over again. If they would read the scriptures, not even the New Testament, but read it and realize that they should. Nah, they're not watching. But he's saying, God's doing this, is they will know that I'm Lord. If they would just do this, they would know that. If they don't, they don't.
They have to believe that's God's writing. That's the hard part, to get people believing that the Bible is from God's mind, God's hand, God's telling.
And they fall back on the same sin that Adam and Eve did. I want to be my own God, so I can tell myself what I want to do, and you can't tell me. And I get to do what I want to do, not what you want me to do. So you're not God.
And the Bible's not important to them.
No. They didn't talk about my God. My God is the one that lets me do what it's because I'm my God. That's what they're saying. And that's kind of the timeline I was trying to show to at first about the different time zones. Ezekiel, and it's two different colors. One is when he did it. One is when he was born, I guess, or started preaching. The other was when he was in captivity. Because Daniel, Jeremiah, and Ezekiel are the ones that are during this time frame they're talking about. Questions will be picked up next week by Steve.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you for joining us. See you next week.